Thank you very much, Gareth, and thank you also for inviting me and giving us the possibility to listen and to follow your projects. Thank you very much. When you all come in, I just would like to remember, which was a kind of experience in the presentations before. I think Gabriela, she was reminding us that mourning is a practice which we could engage for debate, and what was striking in the documentation was her use of pauses and of moments which were between silence and a pause. But what I wanted to say, one point, is concerning the structure. I was thinking all the time, working with Christoph, what does he do? Draft. No, inviting artists and curators and do what they somehow do with a public debate. And I wonder how can this function? And yesterday I was overwhelmed, and I enjoyed being here because I found that he has adopted, together with Gitanjali, a practice which I would like to recall. The practice when you have a major, big problem, for example, cancer, how to find medicine against. The project, the idea is not to have one single solution, but many approaches, and invite people you trust to develop own ideas, to create small pieces and fields, and try to develop and produce their ways of working and tackling the problem, and giving them the trust that they do this. And I have the feeling that this works quite well as someone coming from outside. And we carefully do avoid, let's say, overarching narratives, although Gitanjali asks us, are there ethical invariants? And I would suggest that we do not look for universals, but maybe we ask the questions, how may we deal with this different project, which each project has its own measurements and its own coordinates and its own scaling. But is there something which we can work with? And I would suggest that the notion of time, and is a very blue box, a black box question, but might become productive. For example, we had the notion of timelessness of gold in the Robotic Research Project. We had also the question of what is Mexico today? And we had the question in the South African, not the question, but the feeling that we need to come back to certain charters, universal rights, documents, in order to remember that the state which we are in is not correct, is not justice. And the idea would be, not the challenge, but to use time as, and even what is now, as a guiding question for equilibrating the different measurements. How may we exploit this? Just let me try to go through. Mexico. Again, the question, what is Mexico today? And we had the feeling that Mexico today is deeply, let's say, haunted by images which are between the contemporary and the past. And therefore, the question, what is today, is reliable on the documents, but also on the way how you realize and give trust to the documents and work on them in the moment. The Mumbai project had a totally different approach. I'm answering now more poetically. I think what remains for me was the question of the grass growing in the garden, and somehow totally different from the Mexican practice, but the garden and giving the chance to let something grow without giving it too much planning. This is another time structure, and give trust into what is growing amongst people. Third, the question, the point of St. Petersburg, where we had the feeling that there is very prominent still the idea of the Russian avant-garde, but also all this Pushkin tradition, ballet traditions, and on the other hand, a severe critique and confrontation with contemporary art. But Dimitri gave us a clue, and I think he remains in a rather rational thought, but it would be valuable to evolve, that in the contemporary, in the now, you realize what is in the past. But this is totally confronted what Richard said for a few moments ago, that the now is an accumulation of the past. But I would stick to these differences and evolve them. Do I want to say something else? Yes. I think we have a little bit forgotten what Christian yesterday morning put into the discussion to the rush to the Mexican project. He said, what is about the algorithms that you that you trust, that you use unconsciously, more or less unconsciously, and giving your movies to Facebook and to others? And can we overcome? And this is, I understand, as an invitation to come back to technological questions, although we cannot solve them, but to tackle them. And this would somehow be a rounding up. I think we cannot solve all the network on the programming problems. We cannot even cut off immediately an atomic reactor. But what we can is to be careful with the notion and the dealing of time and rhythm. And I want to conclude this with a special thanks to Gareth, to our timekeeper.